Today became the worst day for the company. The most popular lawyer on the internet who deals with exposés has taken on the case. And here's what happened. Law by Mike made another exposé video, and in the comments, we noticed this. One of the viewers writes, "For the next case you analyze, please take the Invis case. I know it's not as big, but it harms other creators and practically destroys one person's work. So if you want to take on one more case, please take this one." And what's most interesting, Law by Mike likes this message. You could say he agrees. And what happened next? You'll learn in today's video, so don't forget to subscribe to the channel and hit like. Well, let's begin. After more than 100,000 subscribers unsubscribed from the company's channel, after the company started massive attacks on their own bloggers, after they destroyed all their reputation, now the most powerful blow is being prepared against them in the form of a big exposé video from a well-known person who has a multi-million audience and is himself a lawyer. Law by Mike is the creative pseudonym of Michael Mandel, the most well-known legal blogger in the world. If you've ever scrolled through recommendations, you've surely seen this charismatic guy in a strict suit who explains laws and makes exposés. But Michael isn't just a popular guy from the internet making entertainment videos. He's a real professional with a brilliant education. Mandel graduated with honors from the prestigious Duke University and for many years successfully practiced as an attorney in the USA, particularly at the large international firm Reed Smith. His main mission is to translate the complex, boring, and scary language of jurisprudence into the simple and understandable language of ordinary people. And so he publishes another exposé, and there this viewer's comment appears. After this, Michael likes it and responds to him with a question. Do many people want to see this exposé? And after this, under his latest video about Lego, people started writing en masse to Michael asking him to take on exposing the company. After this, EBO and Iron Cameraman spoke out on this matter. Here's what Iron Cameraman writes. "We can tell Law by Mike that really legally questionable things are happening here. Here, for example, is what's worth mentioning. The company's CEO uses NDAs and contractual restrictions to prevent Supcaman from publicly talking about the situation. His interview with journalist Stephen Asark didn't come out because Boom is required to coordinate every statement about the company or Skibidi Toilet. This raises concerns that the NDA is being used not only to protect confidential information, but as a tool of pressure and control over the original author's public position. Invis publicly disclosed personal correspondence with Alexei Gerasimov without his consent. The company used these private messages to prove its position in the conflict, although the correspondence itself wasn't intended for public distribution. This raises serious questions about privacy violation, pressure on the author, and using personal communication as a PR weapon against him. Invis massively sends strikes to content creators who criticize the company. Invis threatened to leak a recording of a private call without the participants' consent. Invis uses strikes to force content creators into contracts with the company. A third party representing the company's interests directly threatened with strikes if a YouTuber didn't agree to a contract. These contracts look very unfair and one-sided. Many of these creators are minors and don't have the opportunity to show contracts to lawyers before signing. I just listed this as an example. It's better to tell the situation in your own words. The main thing is to show activity, and then, if he really gets interested, he'll contact me or someone else who understands the situation inside the fandom well, and we'll tell and show him everything in detail. I also recommend you write a comment so Michael sees a big demand from us. Now, let's analyze is the most dangerous scenario for the company of all possible ones. Until this moment, the entire community's fight rested on YouTubers who analyzed the situation inside the Skibidi Toilet fandom. This is important work, but it has a ceiling. The audience of these channels is mainly those who are already aware of the conflict. We're talking to ourselves, stewing in our own pot. But Law by Mike is a completely different level. He's watched by tens of millions of people who have never heard of Skibidi Toilet, or Supcaman, or Invis. If he makes a video, the story will go far beyond the fandom and reach a huge audience for whom it will simply be a shocking story about how a corporation destroys a creator. And what's even more important, Michael isn't a blogger reviewer. He's a practicing lawyer with real education and experience. When an ordinary YouTuber says a contract is unfair, That's his opinion. When the same is said by a lawyer who graduated from Duke University and worked at the international firm Reed Smith, it already sounds like a legal assessment. His words carry weight that ordinary bloggers don't have. If he publicly calls the company's actions questionable from a legal point of view, this will hit their reputation much harder than hundreds of videos from fans. By the way, Michael already has a fresh precedent for such activity. In September 2025, he officially joined the legal team of a YouTuber named Schlep in a case against Roblox. Mike isn't just a person who makes entertainment videos about laws. He really gets involved in legal battles when he sees injustice toward content creators. And this means that in the case with Invis, he may not limit himself to one expose video, but go further. This is exactly the person who's capable of turning internet drama into a real legal proceeding. This is what scares the company most of all. It's one thing when you're criticized by fans in the comments. It's another thing when a professional lawyer with a multi-million audience starts publicly analyzing your contracts, your use of NDAs, your strikes, and your treatment of underage authors. The last point, by the way, is the most explosive. If minors really do figure in this story, who were slipped one-sided contracts to sign without the opportunity to show them to a lawyer, this is potentially a serious legal problem, not just an ethical question. And now about the dark side of this idea, so that everything doesn't seem like a fairy tale. We've already seen a similar situation a few months ago. Then internet journalist Stephen Asarch tried to take an interview with Supcaman. The news inspired everyone. It seemed that here it was. Now the truth would come out. But a few days after the announcement, we learned that the interview was canceled by Alexei himself. And obviously, the company and the consequences of the contract influenced this decision. Although formally no one forbade the interview, Boom is just required to coordinate every word about the company, and this turned out to be enough to bury everything. And here, I see a direct parallel. The company already surely knows about activity around Law by Mike and will do everything in its power so that this expose doesn't happen. Their most obvious move is to simply contact Michael directly and ask him not to make the video. They'll present him their version of events, show selected pieces of correspondence, tell a beautiful story about how Alexei sold everything himself and is to blame for everything. And there's a risk that Michael, not knowing the whole backstory, may believe them or simply decide not to get involved. That's why it's so important that before any dialogue with the company, Michael gets acquainted with the whole story. There's the site letboomspeak.com, where the entire chronology of the conflict is collected with all details and evidence. If Michael studies the situation from both sides before Invis has time to impose their version on him, the company won't have a chance to deceive him. Therefore, our task is not just to attract his attention, but also to immediately direct him to the full picture. There's another nuance worth thinking about. Even if Michael makes a video, the company may try to crush him legally, as they crush everyone else. But here's the irony. Michael himself is a lawyer. To intimidate with strikes or threats, a person who professionally deals with law and works on a team against Roblox is much harder than to intimidate a teenager with a fan channel. Their usual pressure tactics here may simply not work. And this is another reason why this scenario is the worst for them. Let's honestly assess what this will give us in the best case. The ideal outcome is attracting such great public attention that the company will be forced to either release Alexei or sell the franchise. I talked about the option with selling to a 24 studio in detail in the previous video. You can watch it. A video from Law by Mike could become exactly the catalyst that brings the story to a mainstream level and creates pressure that's impossible to ignore. But even the minimal outcome would already be a victory. If as a result of all this, Alexei gets at least the opportunity to say his last, sincere and farewell word to viewers without contractual restrictions, this will already be a huge step. The community deserves to hear the truth firsthand, not through pieces of correspondence selected by the company. Therefore, I call on you all to show activity. Write comments under Law by Mike's videos. Not aggressively, not spam, but to the point, explaining the situation in your own words. The more adequate comments he sees, the higher the chance he'll get interested and dig deeper. Our victory is getting closer, and each of us can bring it closer with one comment. Mike can latch on to the unfair contract. Let's start with the use of NDA. NDA, a non-disclosure agreement, is an absolutely normal legal tool. Companies use it to protect trade secrets, financial information, technologies. But there's a huge difference between protecting real secrets and gagging a person so they can't tell their side of a public conflict. When an NDA is used not to protect information, but as a gag, this is already a completely different story. And this is exactly what a lawyer should pay attention to. If Tafuk Boom physically can't tell what happened to him, because every word of his must be approved by the company he's in conflict with, then this looks like an abuse of the tool, not its lawful application. The second point, even more serious. This is the publication of personal correspondence without consent. The company took Alexei's private messages and made them public in order to present him in the light they wanted. There are two problematic moments here at once. The first is the very fact of publishing private correspondence without permission, which, depending on the jurisdiction, may violate privacy laws. The second is that the correspondence was most likely shown selectively. They tore out the necessary pieces from context to create a certain impression. And this is already manipulation. A lawyer of Mandel's level will immediately see how shaky such a move looks from a legal point of view. The third point, mass strikes for criticism. The system of copyright strikes on YouTube was created to fight real piracy, content theft. But when a company uses it as a weapon against those who voice criticism, relying on the principles of fair use, this turns into abuse of the system. And what's especially important, false copyright claims in themselves can have legal consequences for whoever files them. That is, the company, flooding critics with strikes, potentially sets itself up. But as you can see, they've already stopped doing this because they realized it. And the fourth, the heaviest point, pressure on minors. If the company really forced minors to sign contracts under the threat of strikes, not giving them the opportunity to show documents to a lawyer or parents, then this is a potentially very serious violation. Contracts with minors are regulated in a special way in general, and in many cases, such an agreement can be declared invalid. If teenagers figure in this story who were forced to sign one-sided agreements, this can become the most vulnerable spot of the company's entire position. You see how much material there is here for a lawyer? This isn't just fan outrage. This is a set of real legal questions, each of which deserves analysis. And when a person like Law by Mike, who knows how to explain complex legal things in simple language for millions of viewers, takes on this topic, the picture for the company will become very unpleasant. Now let's think strategically. What can the company do to prevent this? They have few options, and all are bad. The first is to try to negotiate with Michael quietly, as I already said. But this is risky, because if it surfaces that they tried to suppress the exposé, this will only confirm that they have something to hide. The second option is to ignore it and hope the hype dies down on its own. But we've already seen that ignoring in their case doesn't work. It only angers the community even more. The third option is to try to pressure Michael himself legally. But as I said, intimidating a practicing lawyer is almost impossible. It turns out that the company is cornered. Any of their actions in response to this exposé will only worsen their position. And this is the main strength of the current moment. We've finally found a lever against which they have no good answer. Of course, you shouldn't fall into euphoria. Michael hasn't confirmed yet that he'll make the video. He only showed interest, liked, and asked a question about demand. There's a big distance between interest and a real video. He has a huge flow of content, a tight schedule, and Skibidi Toilet is a niche topic for him that may not become a priority. Therefore, it's important not to harbor inflated expectations, but also not to miss the chance. What we can really do right now is show the scale of demand. Michael directly asked whether many want to see this, so the answer to his question depends on us. Every comment, every like, every repost is a vote for the exposé to happen. This is exactly the situation when collective action of the community has a direct influence on the outcome. This has been Super Cameraman. See you very soon. Goodbye, everyone.